Archie, you believe that?
I still believe that. You know what? They got us. They got us.
What? Down the aisle with Mr. Fuji is the challenger, weighing 505 pounds, Yokozuna.
Attitude Era family. When did you find out that Yokozuna was not Japanese? He wasn't even a sumo wrestler.
HP, you know what? They got us. King HP, when did you realize Yokozuna wasn't a Yokozuna, which is a champion in sumo wrestling, or even Japanese?
Yo, it's wild. I think, to be honest, I think his whole WWE run, WWF at the time, I actually believed it. I think I might have been an adult or a late teen because he left in like 96, maybe early 97. I think it was after he was gone that I was like, wait, what? He's a part of. Wait, what? He related to Roman in it?
He one of those.
He one of them.
He one of them. He's actually part of the bloodline and the NOI family, which is Roman Reigns, The Rock, the Usos, Rikishi, the Wild Samoans, that whole tree. But they told us this man was Japanese and a sumo wrestler.
And I believe, and not even so. It's wild, right? Because he coming to WWF back in '92. Matter of fact, Halloween of '92, right? Which wasn't even an event. It was like Superstars or something like that, right? But anyway, he had the music. He had Mr. Fuji, which is another thing they did because you see this Oriental man, so it now he's fitting the part.
It sold you. Mr. Fuji, without Mr. Fuji, I don't think this works as good as it did. But Mr. Fuji came in with the bucket, the music playing. Ooh, Mr. Fuji got the bucket. They're doing the salt ceremony. He got the flag. It was so, at least to me in my younger eyes, it was authentic. It was real.
It was real, and you couldn't tell me that it wasn't because now again, looking back, when I see him now as a grown man, I'm like, oh yeah, he ain't Japanese. I can clearly see he is not.
Let me tell you, when I figured this out, I was watching one of the WWE documentaries about Yokozuna, and the Usos were on it. They were talking about when they found out that their uncle was making his WWE debut. So I'm pretty sure I'm saying this wrong, but they were watching it and it was like, who's this Japanese man? That's Uncle Rodney.
Uncle Rodney.
Uncle Rodney is how they knew him because he's a Samoan, part of the NOI family tree, but to the world and even to his family, the little Usos at the time, they were confused. It's like, yo, that's Uncle Rodney. Hey, who's the Japanese man? But I tell you, I've always been big into like the Japanese culture. I remember in the 90s, there was like a sumo wrestler explosion in the States. I mean, Akibono was like the biggest one. He was doing appearances. He was on like the TV shows. And so maybe that tied into it, but I don't know why they decided on this character, but this was one of the best and protected characters, and it worked. That's the thing about this Samoan man being presented as a Japanese sumo wrestler. It worked. He looked it. He passed the eye test, right? He was big, and what did we know of sumo wrestlers? But he had the gear. He did it. It just worked. They put together a good character, and I see you point to your head. What you thinking about?
I'm about to tap in.
He even had the bun, the little hair bun. Like it was good. It was presented well.
The dude that we have to thank for this, the dude who gets beat up for this, that made us believe WWE had us believing before Bo Dallas, is Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter. So Vince sees Yokozuna as we know him on the indie circuit. His name was Coquina Maximus at that time. You know what I'm saying? And he's a lot smaller at the time too, but you know what I'm saying? But he wasn't like small. He was still a bigger guy. And they liked him. They was like, yo, Vince
He
is, you
was
know,
moving too.
he can move. He can move. And Vince had told Sergeant Slaughter, like, but I got a bunch of Samoans already on the roster. I think at the time they had the head shrinker, so he didn't really know how to market them. And Sergeant Slaughter, with a straight face, tells Vince McMahon that make him a sumo wrestler. And they just did it. So they went through a bunch of names of things that were a Japanese name, and Yokozuna literally means their
Champion.
champion. Their champion. It actually has the it means the literal translation is horizontal rope, which is the thing they wear around the waist, and it equals that is like
Champion
a symbol of
status.
rank. Yeah, it's a symbol of rank. And the Yokozuna is the highest ranking sumo wrestler, is the grand champ. So these dudes did it. Like so he had the joint wrapped around him. They used to change the color based on his. He had the red pants. He had the white or black. If he had black pants, he'd have the red joint. If he had, you know what I'm saying. So they sold it, man. They sold it.
Sold it. And like I said, you know what else sold it? His manager, Mr. Fuji. And I got a list here of people that you might have forgotten this man managed. He managed George the Animal Steel, Killer Khan, Kamala, another giant.
Wait, time out. Kamala?
Kamala. Sika, rest in peace, who just transitioned to pass away, who's Roman Reigns' dad.
His dad, yeah.
We got Crush. Remember Crush?
I remember Crush. I remember him managing Crush too.
Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Don Morocco.
I don't remember.
The Powers of Pain.
I remember that very vividly because they were going up against Demolition, Warlord, and Barbarian, who I just mentioned. I go get their fingers and everything.
Randy's dad, Cowboy Bob Orton, and Yokozuna's tag team partner, who he won gold with, Owen Hart.
So another wild point to make about that, like we talk about the Samoan thing. Rikishi is a sumo wrestler. So funny how years later we get another version of Yokozuna in Rikishi.
That he's legit sumo wrestler?
No. Like
you mean the word Rikishi?
The word Rikishi is based is a term in Japanese for sumo wrestler.
So you just learned me something. You heard me?
Yeah. So it takes like 1 out of every 1,000 Rikishis might equal a Yokozuna because Yokozuna is the highest. That's how rare it is. So it's funny how keeping with that family tree, they got another guy who's bigger. You know what I'm saying? And what they do with him, they put him in the mold of that Yokozuna.
And what I do like about the Yokozuna character was it kind of, even though he was Samoan in real life, but not on TV, it redefined the Samoan, right? Because in WWE, the Samoans were the wild Samoans. Then you had the head shrink. It was kind of like barbaric. It was this guy, they cleaned him up and gave him a different character and a different look. And I don't want to burst nobody's bubbles, but like I said, this show is called They Got Us, because you know why? They got us with this Yokozuna character. This man was born in San Francisco. Mr. Fuji, he was born in Hawaii. So they double got us on this one. But Yokozuna was and is part of the Anoa'i family. He's a Samoan, so he's part of the bloodline. And that's the history of him. He wrestled in New Japan. You know, he wrestled down in Texas before making it into this character. But this character was no slouch. He had gold. And he had big moments. 2 things that pop into my mind instantly. Well, 3. 1, Lex Luger. When Lex slammed him, that was a big deal. That was equivalent to Andre Hogan of the day. 2, Bret Hart putting him in a sharpshooter was like, visually, it was like, no way this could happen. And the 3rd thing, outside of that entrance and that character, the Archie Carter ain't taking no banzai drop.
No, he used to do. he he could plant his feet in a
Banzai!
way. He
Boom!
could plant his feet in a way to make it so where you don't take so much weight,
Ain't no
or
way. You can
he
only
could kick
stop
his
so
feet
much.
out. He could kick his feet out and let you bomb. You take all that, and that's a lot. And he wasn't. Yo, he was like
I
at
don't
one
know if
point.
it was him or someone else, so I don't want to put no dirt on his jacket, but this goes for a lot of wrestlers, right? If you aren't really moving in the ring how you should, you're gonna catch a receipt, right?
Yeah,
And
fact.
sometimes these moves, I can brace you for them, and sometimes you're gonna get this work. So sometimes wrestlers will give you a nice stiff receipt. And if you know the receipt is, it's like if you do something to me, I'm gonna get you back, but like for real. Perfect example.
Brock Lesnar and
Brock
Braun
Lesnar
Strowman.
and Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman was moving too fast in the ring. He hit Brock. Brock legit struck him a couple times and told him, slow the fuck down. Like, so that's a receipt. Nia Jackson, Charlotte Flair, they hadn't even got into a fist fight. Receipt. So, but a lot of wrestlers do that. And I would have hate to have been on the receiving end of a receipt from the Banzai Drive because, and speaking of his move sets, we see the Usos, they're gonna super kick you to death. But guess what? Yokozuna had a super kick.
He did. He was.
He
He did.
could wrestle. He could, for a man that size, he could do some things that you wouldn't expect a man that size to be able to do.
And it's funny because Yokozuna, even though he has a short time in WWE, it's a very impactful time because
Had a short
he,
life. He passed at 34 years old.
yeah, see, so exactly. So his time is very, he wins a Royal Rumble eliminating the Macho Man. He beat two American heroes essentially because he beat Hulk Hogan at that King of the Ring, and then he beats Lex Luger at WrestleMania 10. To keep that title picture going to go on to face Brett in the final match, right? And then he's got victories over the Undertaker. He's got matches with Shawn Michaels when he was world champ. So he was the in betweener of two eras because '92 you still see some of the bigger physical guys, and yet in '96 you see the Shawn Michaelses and like the Bret Harts, the smaller guys, and he
And
can
I've
move
heard
slow.
nothing but good things about this man. Like as a man, like I didn't know him, never met him, but from what I've seen, the documentaries, the interviews, anybody that speak on Uncle Rodney is always loved, and they talk about how much he cared and loved about his family. Cared about and loved his family and loved on them. That he would do a lot with his earnings and his money, but unfortunately he passed away early, and it was due to, like I said, he was a big man, and
Big
he
man.
was almost at 500 or past 500 pounds, and
He almost hit 6. Like I don't know what the WWE said about him, but at one point he was 589 pounds.
he got
That's
it.
a lot.
It just got. I was actually at the
A lot of weight.
WWE Hall of Fame ceremony when he got inducted, and I thought
Mm.
that was cool just to be there and see those guys induct him and all that. But Yokozuna was not a Yokozuna, folks. He was Uncle Rodney from San Francisco,
Wow.
and that's from the Usos' mouths themselves. But again, like you said, he was in between two eras, and I remember for Christmas one of them years, Super Nintendo, that WWE game. I
Mm.
begged my mom for it. I got it for Christmas, and I got Banzai drop to that. But like I said, Yokozuna was he's one of those ones. I don't think people speak on him enough, to be honest, for what he did in the time he did it. It was impressive. Think about the list of names you just mentioned.
Right.
He beat the who's who of WWF at the time in that time. And I think if he had a longer career, he would have more title reigns, and not only singles. He was 2-time tag team champ, and they put gold on him. They believed in not only the wrestler but the man and the character. One of the best characters and one of the most protected characters too, in WWF. So yeah, man. Huh?
Shout out to Yokozuna and shout out to WWE Creative for making a character that is timeless. Yokozuna will last forever, and there will always be questions about how, the what ifs. What if he would have, stayed in a better shape instead of getting to 589, 600, he would have stayed around 450. You know what I mean? And how far his career, maybe life, I don't know, but at the end of the day, where it could have gone, because he had some type feuds. He had Bret Hart being one, Lex Luger being another, Vader being another. So we got to see those things play out, and I'm happy I did in my lifetime. But I ain't gonna lie,
You thought it was a Japanese sumo wrestler.
I think I probably didn't realize he wasn't until he passed away and they put his real name on screen.
Yeah,
So
I don't want to say his first name because I'm going to mispronounce it, but I know the Usos called him Uncle Rodney, and they were shocked to find out that he was going to be a Japanese man on TV, and we were shocked to find out that he wasn't this Japanese. Like, I mean, he had the look, he had the gear, he had the robe, he had the bun, he had the presence. It was the presence. You believed it. You believed that this man was a Japanese sumo wrestler, and the highest rank of it is being a Yokozuna. And again, the manager, this man, Mr. Fuji, is one of the best characters. And if he wasn't a good manager, he wouldn't have managed all of them people I named.
Right.
But the pairing of him and Yokozuna, it was perfect. Like I said, a match made in heaven. It was definitely a match made in the WWE, and it worked so well. Again, I remember them throwing the salt. I had to ask somebody what that was. What is that? When a wrestler make you question like what you seeing and is it authentic, they did their job. And with this character and his in-ring work, he did his job. In-ring, they did their job, branding and building, and he didn't even have to talk much. So
Banzai!
That's it. So, man, that they got us. That's all I gotta say is, man, they got us. And Yokozuna, man, thanks for the memories. Awesome character, great time in wrestling. Beautiful bridge in between the two, because I think, man, could you imagine Yokozuna in the Attitude Era?
I would say I would love to see a guy like that.
Thinking about Vince, he would have been in some saunas and some weird stuff going on. So
yeah, they might have ruined it, but at that time, you normally had the big guys and you had this guy.
Here's a question: if Yokozuna doesn't pass away, do we get Rikishi?
Not in that form. He'd have probably stayed as the Sultan or something. You know what I'm saying? Not in that form, because I'm gonna be honest with you, even as Rikishi, he never pales. He pales in comparison to Yokozuna. I mean, that's just the reality.
That's big shoes. That's a big shadow to cast.
It's a big shadow, but it's the reality. You're not gonna. I mean, just look at the careers. They turned you to a funny man, and you had success there. But your success.
So where do you rank him in the Anoa'i family?
Yoko?
Yeah.
Behind Roman Reigns now.
So you got Roman, Yoko.
And Yoko. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, there's a gap after that, because then people say, well, what about The Rock? Rock is not Anoa'i. Like, he's in that family, but he's not direct. So if we're talking about direct,
I'll go Umaga, then we can talk about the Usos.
But even it's a tricky question because Umaga is a solo guy. The Usos are two people, and you get to, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a wild card. Like, okay, together they did a lot of great things, long tag team run, and then separately that book is still being written.
Right.
You know, Jay makes still, so.
But you got Yoko high at least in your top 3.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's the first, like you said, they were cast as savages. They were always like the wild smoke, you know what I mean, like, and here he come with the bun, bonsai, and he's a world champ. He's not a transitional champion either. He is literally holding gold and holding it down. And he's beating a who's who. He gets a Royal Rumble win. He's doing this in 92, 93. And into 94, he headlines 2 back-to-back WrestleManias, WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace, and then WrestleMania 10, which I believe was at Madison Square Garden against Bret Hart. And he had 2 matches there because he also had Lex Luger match there too. And so he has a reign of dominance. He ends Hulkamania.
And he's a tag, like I said, 2-time tag champ.
2-time tag champion. He ended Hulkamania. He literally did. Hulk beat him at WrestleMania, King of the Ring 93. Guess what? Bonsai drop, send that man off to WCW.
Oh man, Bonsai. Thanks again for the memories, Yokozuna. One of the best characters, one of the best protected characters, one of good in-ring work. Everything I heard outside the ring, awesome.
Drop somebody.
So when did you watching this? We asked earlier. When did you realize Yokozuna was just Uncle Rodney from California? That's King HB. I'm the Archie Carter. And guess what? They got us.